You know how some stories start with a big moment? A dramatic breakup, a job loss, something that kicks everything into motion? Yeah, mine started with Elise. It was a Wednesday afternoon when my phone buzzed. I glanced down and saw the name. Liam. Yo, I answered, propping my feet on my coffee table. Dude, you still got that spare room open? I blinked. Yeah? Wait, why? Liam sighed on the other end, deep and frustrated. Broke up with Melissa. My heart stuttered for a second. Liam and Melissa had been together since, forever. High school sweethearts, Instagram, perfect couple, the works. Holy shit, man. You good? Not really, he muttered. I'll explain later. Can I crash at yours? Yeah, of course. For as long as you need. And just like that, my straight best friend of 8 years was moving in. Liam and I had always been close. We met freshman year in college when we were randomly assigned as partners for a psych project. I was the quiet, artsy kid. He was the tall, cocky soccer player who somehow managed to be both incredibly annoying and ridiculously charming. We clicked fast. Maybe it was the constant roasting, or maybe it was the fact that beneath all that swagger, Liam was actually one of the most genuine people I'd ever met. But there was one thing I'd always kept quiet about. One little detail I'd never let slip in all the years we'd been friends. I was hopelessly, stupidly, silently in love with him. Liam showed up 2 days later with nothing but a couple of duffel bags and that worn leather jacket I secretly hated because it made him look stupidly good. Yo, he grinned as I opened the door, pulling me into one of those backslapping hugs he always gave. Hey man, I said, trying not to melt into the scent of his cologne, something woodsy and clean that always lingered a little too long. I helped him haul his stuff into the spare room, which was really just a glorified storage closet I'd cleared out the night before. This okay? I asked, shoving the last box into a corner. Dude, this is perfect, Liam said, flopping onto the bare mattress like it was the Ritz. You're seriously saving my ass. I laughed, leaning against the doorframe. Don't mention it. For a minute, we just stood there, him sprawled out, arms behind his head, looking unfairly good even in an old t-shirt and joggers. Me, pretending I wasn't completely falling apart inside. So, I asked casually, what happened with Melissa? Liam sighed, rubbing his face. Same old crap. She wanted something serious, like marriage serious. And I don't know, man. I'm not built for that. Dude, you were together for 6 years. Yeah, and I still don't get why, he groaned, then grinned. Nah, I mean, she's great. Just not what I want. I raised an eyebrow. What do you want? For a second, something flickered across his face. Something I couldn't read. But just as quickly, it was gone. Hell if I know, he muttered, sitting up and stretching, his shirt riding up just enough to flash a glimpse of toned abs. Right now? Pizza. That first week was weird. Not bad, just weird. We slipped into this easy rhythm. Him gaming on my couch while I worked on design projects, both of us cooking dinner together like some accidental married couple, late night beers on the balcony talking about everything and nothing. But the weird part was, Liam started acting different. Little things, like how he started walking around shirtless more than usual, or how he'd stand just a bit too close when we cooked, his arm brushing mine, or how he'd casually crash on the couch next to me, legs stretched out, head tilted against my shoulder like it was the most normal thing in the world. It was driving me insane. And then came the night everything changed. It was a Friday. We'd both had a couple beers, played a few rounds of FIFA, and were now passed out on the couch watching some dumb action movie. I must have drifted off, because the next thing I knew, I felt something. Warm. Heavy. When I cracked my eyes open, Liam was right there. His head resting against my chest, his arm lazily draped across my stomach. I froze. Was he asleep? Was this real? Should I move? Before I could decide, he shifted slightly, murmuring, "You're warm." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Liam? I whispered. His fingers curled slightly against my shirt, like he was holding on. And then, barely audible, his voice slurred with sleep but clear enough to make my heart stop. "I always feel safe with you." I lay there, wide awake, my heart thundering so loud I was convinced Liam could hear it, even in his half-asleep state. Safe. He said he felt safe with me. It shouldn't have meant anything. It was a sleepy mumble, the kind of thing people say when they're barely conscious. But it wrapped around my chest, squeezing tighter than it should have. I wasn't sure what to do. Should I shift away? Wake him up? Pretend it wasn't happening? But I didn't do any of that. I stayed still, let him rest there. Let myself enjoy it, even if just for a little while. His breathing evened out. Warm. Steady. His fingers relaxed against my stomach, but his head stayed right where it was, tucked against my chest like this was something he did every night. I stared at the ceiling, trying not to overthink, and failing miserably. When I woke up, the sun was cutting through the blinds, and for a second, I forgot where I was. Until I realized Liam was still there, or rather, had been there. His side of the couch was empty now, just a faint indent where his body had been. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, trying to figure out whether I dreamed the whole thing. But the wrinkle in my shirt, the faint smell of his shampoo still lingering on the pillow, that was all real. Voices drifted from the kitchen. I stood, padding over, half dreading what would come next. But when I stepped in, there he was. Shirtless again, like it was just part of his personality now. Scrambling eggs like nothing was out of the ordinary. "Morning," he said, flashing me that easy grin. "Morning," I echoed, trying to sound normal. Not panicked, not confused. He glanced over his shoulder. "You sleep all right?" I hesitated. "Yeah. You?" "Yeah," he said, a little too quickly. Then he scratched the back of his neck. "Hope I wasn't, crowding you last night. I think I passed out on you." I opened my mouth. Closed it, opened it again. "Nah, you're good." "Cool." He nodded, turning back to the stove. "Cool." The silence that followed wasn't normal silence. It was loaded, heavy, like there was an entire conversation happening between us that neither of us knew how to start. For the next few days, everything felt heightened. The glances, the little touches, the way his knee would brush against mine when we sat on the couch, the way he'd lean over me when checking something on my laptop, his hand resting on the back of my chair, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his skin. None of it was overt. None of it crossed a line. But it was something. And then it escalated. It was a random Tuesday night. I'd just gotten out of the shower, towel drying my hair when I heard it, knuckles rapping lightly on my bedroom door. "Yeah?" I called out. The door cracked open, and there was Liam. Messy hair, sweatpants, barefoot. His expression, hesitant, uncertain. "Hey, he scratched his neck. "Can I crash in here tonight?" I blinked. "What? Why?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Just don't feel like being alone." My mouth went dry. Yeah, sure." He stepped inside like it was the most casual thing in the world, sliding onto the far side of my bed without another word. I sat down next to him, suddenly hyper-aware of everything. The weight of the mattress shifting beneath him, the heat radiating off his skin, the faint smell of his cologne. Neither of us said anything for a minute. We just lay there, staring at the ceiling. Then, out of nowhere, Liam's voice. Quiet, barely above a whisper. "Do you ever think maybe people aren't as straight as they think they are?" My breath caught. Depends. Yeah." He exhaled, turning onto his side to face me. Me too. His eyes searched mine, open, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. And then, so quietly it almost didn't register, he added. "'Cause lately, I don't know, man. I think about stuff I probably shouldn't." My heart climbed straight into my throat. "Like, what?" His gaze dropped for a second, down to my mouth, then flicked back up. "Like, this." And before I could even process it, Liam was leaning in, slow, hesitant. But he didn't stop. I should have pulled away, should have said something, but I didn't. Because I didn't want to. Our lips brushed, tentative, testing, soft, then firmer. And then he pulled back just an inch, eyes wide, searching my face like he was waiting for me to tell him it was a mistake. But all I whispered was, "Do it again." His breath hitched. And he did. The second kiss wasn't cautious. It wasn't testing the waters. It was real, hungry, a little desperate, like we'd both crossed a line and neither of us wanted to step back. Liam's hand slid up, fingers curling behind my neck, pulling me in like he couldn't help himself. I felt him exhale into my mouth, like he'd been holding his breath for this exact moment. His lips were soft but demanding, moving against mine in a way that sent sparks firing through every nerve in my body. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, didn't care. All I knew was that after years of pushing it down, pretending it wasn't there, he was kissing me. He was kissing me. Liam frickin' Carter, my best friend, my straight best friend, who apparently wasn't quite as straight as either of us thought. When he finally pulled back, it was like the whole world shifted back into focus, but it felt different now. His chest was rising and falling fast, his eyes wide like he couldn't believe what we just did. "Shit," he muttered, raking a hand through his hair. I didn't mean to." "You did," I interrupted, my voice lower than I expected. "You definitely did." He squeezed his eyes shut for a second, then laughed. But it was nervous, almost shaky. Yeah, I guess I did." Neither of us moved for a moment. The air between us felt charged. Like if one of us so much as breathed wrong, it would snap. I don't even know what the hell I'm doing," Liam finally admitted, his voice cracking just a little. Yeah, I said softly. "Me neither. Well, not with you." That pulled a real laugh out of him, but it faded fast. "Does this, change stuff?" I swallowed. "It already did." Liam sat up, hands braced on his knees, staring at the floor like it might give him the answers. "Dude, I've been thinking about this for longer than I want to admit." My eyebrows shot up. "Wait, what?" "I don't know," he sighed, running both hands through his hair. "It started like little things. Catching myself looking at you too long. Wondering stupid stuff. Like what it would be like to, I don't know, hold you, touch you." My mouth went completely dry, and I kept telling myself it was just some fluke. Curiosity or whatever. But the longer I've been here, the worse it's gotten. Or, not worse, just more. I shifted, sitting cross-legged facing him. "Liam, why didn't you say anything?" "Because you're you," he said. Looking at me like that explained everything. "And I didn't want to mess this up. Us. This." His knee bounced restlessly, his fingers tugging at the hem of his sweatpants. I thought maybe I was imagining it. Maybe it was just in my head. But then, that night on the couch, when I woke up with you there, he trailed off, shaking his head. "Dude, I didn't want to move. I didn't want to leave." My heart was punching against my ribs. "I didn't either." His eyes snapped up to meet mine. Yeah. And then something shifted. His shoulders dropped, like a tension he'd been carrying for years, just snapped loose. And when he moved toward me this time, it wasn't tentative. It was deliberate. He leaned in, one hand finding my jaw, his thumb brushing my cheek. His gaze flicked between my eyes and my mouth like he was still making sure, still asking permission. He didn't need to. I closed the gap, pressing my lips to his, And this time, it wasn't soft. It was open, messy, full of everything we'd never said. His tongue slid against mine, his fingers tightening in my hair, pulling me closer, closer. It was a kiss that felt like a door blowing open, like every moment we'd ignored, every glance that lingered too long, every accidental brush of skin, every unsaid thing, it all came pouring out. I tugged him down until he was halfway in my lap, our legs tangled, our hands moving without thinking, gripping, grabbing, holding, wherever we could. When we finally pulled apart, both of us gasping for air, Liam rested his forehead against mine. "This feels a lot less confusing than I thought it would," he whispered. I laughed breathlessly. Yeah, this feels right." Neither of us moved for a long time. We just sat there, tangled together in the low light of my bedroom, breathing each other in, like we were both scared the moment would disappear if we let go. Eventually, Liam tilted his head, pressing a soft kiss to my temple. I don't know what this means yet, or what happens next." I nodded. "Me neither. But I know one thing," he murmured, brushing his thumb over my jaw. "I don't want to stop." The next morning was weird. Not bad weird, just new. I woke up to the sound of soft breathing and the weight of an arm slung lazily over my waist. For a moment, half awake, I forgot. Forgot that this wasn't just a random dream. Forgot that the person tangled against me wasn't some stranger. Then I shifted slightly, and Liam groaned, nuzzling closer like it was second nature. Right, Liam. My best friend, who kissed me last night. A lot. I blinked at the ceiling, my heart thumping in that mix of excitement and low-grade panic. What the hell were we doing? What did this mean? But before my brain could spiral too far, Liam's voice, muffled and rough with sleep, broke the quiet. You awake?" "Yeah," I murmured. He shifted, chin resting on my shoulder. "Me too. Kinda. Don't wanna be." I turned my head slightly, enough to catch a glimpse of him. Hair messy, eyes half-lidded, a lazy grin tugging at his lips. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey." For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Neither of us knew what the hell to do. Then he sighed, pulling his arm back, but not moving away completely. "So, about last night, here it was. The talk. The moment where reality usually comes crashing back in. But when I braced for awkwardness, guilt, or second thoughts, none of it came. Instead, Liam just smiled. Tired, genuine. I don't regret it." My chest tightened. "You don't?" "No." He shook his head. "Not even close." I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "Yeah, me neither." The rest of the day felt different, and not in the bad way I'd always feared. It was subtle at first. Brushing shoulders in the kitchen felt less like an accident and more like a choice. He lingered when our hands touched. His eyes flicked toward me when he thought I wasn't looking, though this time, he didn't bother pretending he wasn't. But there was hesitation too. Boundaries neither of us knew how to navigate yet. By late afternoon, we ended up on the couch, a movie playing, but neither of us paying much attention. At some point, Liam shifted, his thigh pressing against mine. He didn't move away. Instead, he draped an arm across the back of the couch, fingers toying absent-mindedly with the hem of my hoodie. "So," he muttered, not looking at me, "when did you start thinking about me like that?" I swallowed. You really want to know?" "Yeah. College." His head whipped toward me. "College? Bro, that was like years ago." "Yeah," I chuckled nervously. "And you were oblivious." Liam laughed, scrubbing a hand over his face. "Damn. I feel kinda dumb now." "Nah," I smirked. "It was fine, mostly." "Mostly," he echoed, rolling his eyes, but his hand slid down, brushing my leg. "Wish I'd known sooner. Would it have mattered?" He didn't answer right away, just stared at me for a long second. Then he scooted closer until our knees touched, until his hand rested openly on my thigh. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I think it would've." And then it was like a switch flipped. The space between us vanished. His lips were on mine before I even processed the movement. Hot, insistent. His hand gripped my leg, fingers digging into the fabric of my joggers, anchoring me to him like he was afraid I'd pull away. I didn't. I couldn't. I kissed him back, harder than before, hands curling into the front of his hoodie, pulling him close until our chests collided. It was messier this time. More frantic. Less testing the waters. And more, why the hell did we wait this long? His fingers brushed my jaw, my neck, trailing heat everywhere they touched. My hands slid under the hem of his hoodie, fingertips skimming skin. Warm, solid, familiar in ways I'd never allowed myself to imagine until now. He groaned against my mouth, and the sound went straight to my head. God, why does this feel so easy? I breathed, leaning my forehead against his. Yeah, his thumb brushed over my bottom lip. Too easy. We sat there, tangled together, breathing hard, smiling like idiots. Liam traced his fingers along the inside of my wrist. This isn't just, like, some curiosity thing for me, you know. I nodded, my pulse skittering. Yeah? Yeah? He looked down, his grip tightening slightly. I've never felt this with anyone. My throat felt tight. Me neither, then, softer. What do we call this? Liam tilted his head, grinning. Us. Yeah? Yeah. Just us. For the first time in all the years I'd known Liam, the silence between us wasn't awkward. It wasn't heavy with things unsaid. It was comfortable, warm. His fingers never left mine. We sat there, still tangled up on the couch, the movie long forgotten, just breathing each other in, letting it settle, letting the reality of what we'd finally admitted to ourselves actually exist. Liam squeezed my hand. You know, I used to joke about how easy you were to live with. I snorted. Gee, thanks. No, he laughed. I mean, like, this, us, living together. It was never hard. Not like it was with, other people. Yeah, I murmured. Same. His thumb brushed the back of my hand, and something shifted in his expression. His usual cocky confidence softened into something quieter, something almost vulnerable. Honestly, he continued, I think maybe part of me always knew. I blinked. Knew? What? That this, he gestured between us, was more than just roommates, more than just best friends. My chest tightened. Yeah, same. Liam let out a slow breath, then tilted his head, smiling softly. So, is it weird that I kinda don't want to stop? Stop what? This. His voice dropped, fingers sliding up my thigh. Touching you. Being like this. My pulse skyrocketed. No, I said, breathless. Not weird, not even close. He shifted closer until his knees were practically between mine. His hands slid up, cupping my jaw, thumbs brushing over my skin like he was memorizing every inch. His voice was barely above a whisper. Can I didn't even let him finish. I pulled him in. The kiss was different this time. Deeper, slower, not rushed, not frantic, like we both realized. We didn't have to be scared anymore. We weren't risking anything. This was real. This was ours. Liam's hands slid into my hair, tugging slightly, and I gasped against his mouth. He grinned, breaking the kiss just long enough to murmur, You like that? Shut up, I breathed, pulling him right back in. His laugh vibrated against my lips. And then we were moving, stumbling from the couch, barely breaking apart long enough to make it down the hall to my bedroom. His hands fumbled at the hem of my hoodie, tugging it off, then his own shirt followed, hitting the floor somewhere behind us. I froze for a second, just looking. I'd seen Liam shirtless a million times, at the beach, after soccer, just living together. But this was different. This time, he wasn't just my best friend. This time, I was allowed to look. And God, he was beautiful. "Hey," Liam whispered, stepping closer, hands curling around my waist. "Stop overthinking." "I'm not," I said, smiling. "Just trying to catch up with the fact that this is actually happening." His smile softened. "Yeah, me too." Then his hand slid under my shirt, warm, steady, and I shivered as his fingertips brushed my sides. He leaned in, pressing a kiss to my neck, then another. His lips moved slowly, trailing heat along my skin as he worked his way down. His hands roaming, like he'd been waiting years to do this. I tugged him toward the bed, and we collapsed together, laughing breathlessly as we landed in a heap of limbs and tangled sheets. "God, you're addictive," Liam muttered against my skin, his lips brushing my collarbone. "Same," I gasped, threading my fingers through his hair. And then the laughter faded, replaced by something deeper, more serious, more intense. His hands slowed, his lips softened. It wasn't just messing around anymore. This wasn't some dumb experiment. This wasn't boredom or rebound or confusion. This was us, exactly how we were always supposed to be. When we finally slowed down, tangled in the sheets, skin against skin, breathing hard, Liam rolled onto his side, propping his head up on his hand. "Not gonna lie," he said, grinning lazily, "that was way better than anything I ever had with Melissa." I burst out laughing, smacking his chest. "Dude, too soon." He caught my wrist, grinning. "Not sorry." Then his face softened. "Seriously, though, I don't think I've ever felt this," I swallowed, my hand relaxing in his. "Yeah, me neither." Silence stretched between us again. But it wasn't empty. It was full of everything that had changed, of everything we'd been too scared to admit until now. Liam laced his fingers through mine. "So, what do we do now?" I squeezed his hand. "We figure it out." His smile was small. "Sure. Together?" "Yeah," I nodded. "Together." The morning light streamed through the blinds, striping Liam's bare back in soft gold. For a second, I just lay there, watching him breathe. Slow, steady, peaceful, in a way I don't think I'd ever seen before. His arm was slung over my waist, fingers resting against my hip like he wasn't letting go. Even in sleep, he held on. I smiled, letting my fingers trace lazy patterns along his forearm. Everything felt surreal, like I was still dreaming. Except I wasn't. This was real. We were real now. His fingers twitched, then tightened, and his voice, groggy, low, murmured against my shoulder. "You're staring." "Yeah," I whispered. "I am." He shifted, rubbing his face into my shoulder before rolling halfway on top of me, pinning me with his weight. "Good. Keep doing it." I laughed, arms wrapping around his back. "Don't tempt me." Liam grinned into my skin, then went quiet. His fingers brushed against my side, slow, thoughtful. "Is it weird that this doesn't feel weird?" "Not at all," I murmured. "Feels right." "Yeah." His voice softened. "Right." He pulled back just enough to look at me, brushing a strand of hair from my forehead. "You know, if anyone had told me last month that I'd be waking up in your bed like this, I'd have told them they were insane." "Same." His thumb traced the curve of my jaw. "But now, I can't believe we didn't get here sooner." I nodded, something warm blooming in my chest. "Yeah." Then, like flipping back into his usual self, he smirked. Guess I really am the best roommate ever, huh? I snorted. Yeah, best roommate, best friend, and apparently, best boyfriend. His eyes widened for a split second. Boyfriend! The word hung there between us. Bold, terrifying, but honest. Liam blinked, then broke into the softest, most genuine smile I'd ever seen. Yeah, he whispered. Yeah, I like that. We spent the rest of the day tangled up in domestic nothingness. Making breakfast, well, burning toast while Liam tried to cook eggs and I laughed too hard to help. Sitting on the couch, scrolling through terrible movies but barely paying attention because we were too busy trading lazy kisses and grinning like absolute idiots. At one point, Liam looped his arm around me, pulling me close. So, when are we telling people? I shrugged. I don't know. When we feel like it, he nodded. Cool, 'cause I kinda like having you all to myself for a bit. My heart thudded. Yeah, same. That night as we crawled back into bed, his bed, my bed, it didn't matter anymore. Liam pulled me close, his fingers threading through mine. Hey, he murmured. Yeah, thanks for waiting. I pressed a kiss to his jaw. You were worth it. He smiled into the dark. Yeah, you too. And as we drifted off, tangled together, I realized this wasn't some wild mistake. It wasn't some confusing accident. This was the start of something real, something ours. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt exactly how it was meant to be.